and welcome to die letzte Weisung, German for the last instruction, my platform for faith, hope and love. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. My name is Andreas. I come from Austria and will soon complete my 28th year of life. 4 years ago, I got born again according to the Bible in spirit and in water. Since then, I have lived through intensive experiences with God. For the sake of completeness, I will read everything to you exactly and then give you my personal interpretation of it and bring some Bible verses, so that you can put what is said better into context. There is no reason why I should not give myself here before the camera as I really am. Because what really counts is to pass on the truth, to tell the message clearly and distinctly. I want to warn you, the present conditions are alarming, and I ask you to open your mind and your heart to what is being said. Today I would like to focus on the first two visions that God has given me and start with the second one because I think it is very close to the current events. But I will also tell you about two shorter visions I had recently, which will underline my warnings. I confess publicly the 100% true content of my narrations. I do not know when those things will occur, since I have received no exact points of time from God. Only signs to interpret the happenings, but I know what I have seen. The first dream I had in 2019 in January. In the beginning, I was kneeling in my room in front of my Bible, praying when suddenly I knew instinctively that chaos was about to begin. I went to the window and all of a sudden I saw an apple blossom appear and sprout in my entire field of vision. I looked out the window and noticed that the building I was in resembled a castle or a large city, when suddenly people started running towards it. It felt like we were being invaded. I left the room to see where I was. There in the hallway, everything seemed like a big shopping mall to me. It was a corridor consisting of different levels, similar to the subway stations in Vienna. People also of foreign origin were running wildly up and down. The mall was secured. I also saw many police forces and military cordoning off the different plateaus. It seemed to me as if we people were herded together like cattle to a higher plateau. It was pure chaos. People were anxious and wanted to get to the higher plateaus at any cost. People were running around hysterically in this mall to buy something quickly and grab something somewhere. Some stores were already closed. In another scene, on the higher levels of the building, people from the normal population were not allowed further up. Here I also saw many people from politics and media. They were considered higher and were given extravagant protection. Between the plateaus rode powerful large elevators and also smaller ones. In front of the big elevators, people were demonstrating for their rights. Everyone was desperate and hasty. Their worries were regarding food and employment. Via a small staircase, I was able to sneak further up. Without being recognized, also to avoid the chaos, there I saw Ursula von der Leyen. She was surrounded by people who were all wearing suits, but she was wearing a red politically correct suit. Ursula was taken up a flight of stairs to a very high plateau. I followed her up the stairs. I stayed on this high plateau in my dream. Once there, I realized what was really going on here. Many people who apparently had something to say, managed a lot of food and drinking water. It was about meetings and lists in which something was entered. The normal population one plateau down was quite clearly separated from the upper elite. It was generally about a state of emergency, and now they didn't have enough resources to provide for everyone. I hoped not to be recognized among these people, but then came an info from the system. They said that I belonged down and that there was no place for me. They wanted to take me down via the big elevator in the middle. The elevator went down. I had a dry feeling in my mouth the whole time, like I was dying of thirst. On the lower level, the normal population protested so much they had no food and no drinking water. They were desperate and denounced the elite. I joined the normal population and started pointing at the upper class, shouting, "Pathetic, pathetic, pathetic." The population followed me and we expressed our dismay. The dream ended here. I interpret here the apple blossom quite clearly as a sign of the point of time when these things will happen, probably at the beginning of a spring between March and May. Ursula von der Leyen as a key person with the red suit, I interpret quite clearly with the EU as great beast from the revelation of John or Babylon. The rest of the dream is actually self-explanatory. Social unrest will increase because the population will be pushed further to the sidelines. What is remarkable about this vision, but also about the next one, is the fact that both take place partly at my current place of residence, my current street. Although in 2015 as in 2019 I did not even know to settle down here. Things that only God can know. The next dream is in September 2015. I ask you to have some attention. In the first scene, I was walking down a very familiar street. In the town I grew up in, the way to my parents' house. I remember it was winter and I was looking up at the sky. The stars were twinkling clearly and purple comets were falling to earth. It was phenomenal and I will never forget that sight. The vision seemed very hyper-real to me. I could absolutely perceive what was happening. There was no impact, but I saw those celestial bodies falling to earth quite clearly from the firmament, with a bluish-violet glow and tail. One of them was especially big. Astonished and with some fear, I went further along the street. Just before I turned into the last alley, I saw a strange spectacle of a figure or figures in the night sky. I entered even more astonished the living room of my parents, and in the TV was announced in the news that mankind had now contact with extraterrestrials. In addition, 3 pictures on which strange beings were portrayed were shown. I can remember calling out my parents shocked with these words. I told you from the beginning. The scene ended. In the second scene, I was mowing my parents' lawn. After a short time, I saw from the west an enormous crowd of airplanes approaching. It must have been thousands. And they came closer and closer. They were black and formed like an arrow. I can't exactly place here whether they were destined for war in another country or the place itself where I was being attacked. I was so shocked in the dream that I walked backward, looking at the sky and fell down, never averting my eyes. The scene ended. In the third and final scene, I was on a bus or streetcar. Some other people were also in the compartment. As far as I can remember, something terrible was happening outside, and panic immediately broke out. I also think I was being threatened. I could feel the atmosphere and mood were heated. Aggression and anger were in the air. I got up from my seat. The scene and therefore the dream itself ended. The image before my eyes blurred very slowly, like the waves washed the sand on the sea, and I woke up in my bed of my former apartment. The feeling after this dream I will never forget, as if I had seen a piece of the future. A mixture of fear and wonder. At that time I did not yet know where my path would lead me. So we obviously get deceived here soon with a heavenly spectacle to accept something which can never correspond to truth. I interpret the comets with the stars which will fall from the sky as described in the Bible, and the spectacle of figures to Project Bluebeam. Please inform yourself about this topic if you don't know anything about it yet. I can't judge whether the ships on the horizon should be warships or do represent a fake alien invasion. More social unrest and panic in the last scene. In 1 Timothy chapter 4 verses 1 and 2 we read, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron." We read in Revelation of John chapter 13 verse 1, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." Verse 4, "And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" Verses 5 to 8, "And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. I warn you, do not be deceived." Recently, around Christmas, I had 2 strange dreams which from the essence and intensity reminded me of my bigger visions, as if God wanted to show me that this year is the time of happenings and I should hurry up with my public videos. In the first dream, I was with a good friend in a kind of beach house, which was fixed on a high pillar. We were talking as usual and could look at the wide sea. Suddenly a strong storm came up and clouds formed on the horizon. We could also perceive thunderstorms from very far away. Immediately we realized that we had to leave the beach house and we climbed down the ladder. The dream ended here. On 6th January then the bomb. In the dream I was again in a high building with many apartments, which was located by the seaside. I looked from the balcony onto the water and could see how enormous waves were rising. My field of vision changed briefly directly into the sea and I could see iron steel gates, perhaps 150 meters away from the land in the water. The waves were already rising to the 3/4 the height of the gates. My field of vision in the dream changed again to the balcony. And then I could not believe my eyes. A huge tsunami, which overtowered the apartment building with the balcony 5 times, came directly towards me. In panic, I ran inside and wanted to close the balcony door. when the wave hit the house with full force. I heard windows shattering everywhere, but the house did not collapse. It was bent. Perplexed and fearful, I then went to the back room of the apartment, where there was a lot of broken glass everywhere. Then I looked into an area of the inner courtyard of this apartment building and could see 1 meter tall fat wasps, woken up by the destruction. They were whirring around totally crazy. The dream ended here. I am sure that God wanted to make me aware of the urgency of my visions here once again. The imminent events that will occur, the signs of the times, the social unrest, the great deceptions that are coming our way, more clearly than with a giant wave that will hit us all, more clearly than with giant wasps that will be flushed out and become more aggressive, God can show it to me. I am firmly convinced that with this year 2022 we are situated in the first year of the 7-year end times period of the prophet of Daniel, and not only my prophecies but also those from the revelation of John will now gradually take place. The only way to save your soul is to believe the story in the 66 books of the Bible and open yourself to the only true God of the Christians, Yahweh, and His Son, Jesus Christ, Yehoshua HaMashiach. The journey of life is not a game, and according to John's revelation, it is now coming to an end. We read in John 3:16-21. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in God. Also in John we read, in chapter 14 verse 6, Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Take heed, I do not call myself a prophet, but a wise man, who was found worthy by God Yahweh to communicate this message to the people. The only way that is there, the only truth that is there, and the only life that is there is, was, and remains Yehoshua HaMashiach, the Son of Man, Jesus Christ. And no one comes to God Yahweh the Father, the Creator, in heavenly regions, except through him. Save your soul now. I have also set up an email address so you can text me. It is called die letzte Weisung @gmx.at. I will handle all your requests in time. I wish you God's strong and protective blessings, and thank you so much. Amen.